Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good topic for you today. Let's do it. What are some of the more horrific experiences you've had while undercover? Also, a little bonus of 911 operators, some scary calls that you've had. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe.
A friend of mine actually got an award for doing a line of cocaine during a drug buy. He was about to do a buy bust. However, during the transaction, the seller told him to do a bump. He declined, so the seller put his hand under a pillow where my friend saw he had a pistol, and the seller told him, "You're going to hit this bump or we'll have problems." Prior to the planning of the bust, they were not aware that there would be kids in the home, and my friend did not have time or a safe way to warn the guys standing by that there were kids inside where the suspect had a gun accessible. So he made a split-second decision to hit the bump to not get shot and to prevent the kids from being in the line of fire during the bust. He made the buy and immediately went to the hospital. They did the bust later under safer circumstances. Old roommate of mine worked vice in a large city in North Texas. Sometimes he would have to pretend to be a male prostitute and pick up men. He would wear a wire, and a team of uniformed police officers would sit nearby in a van or wait for my roommate to give the code word to move in and make the arrest. One night, after getting in a John's car, he got the evidence needed and gave the code word. The guy starts rubbing my roommate's thigh and getting handsy. My roommate keeps giving the code word, and nothing happens. Turns out, the guys were just fucking with him and let him get molested, basically. One of my best friends growing up, her father was a cop. He went undercover for about 2 years, maybe a little more. It was hilarious seeing the transformation. One day, he has a sick sports car in his driveway. A few days later, he has bleached blonde hair, a tattoo, and pierced ears. After that, he moved out of the house for a bit as his undercover stint began. He never talked about it much, especially to people who weren't family. But on the wall in the basement, there hung a plaque that was given to him from the police department. On it read something along the lines of, "This commendation is for blank, for maintaining his cool and staying poised whilst conducting a major drug bust with multiple automatic weapons pointed at his chest." Obviously, it was better written than that. I haven't seen the plaque in over a decade, but that's the gist of it. Can't even imagine how scary that'd be to have multiple automatic weapons pointed at my chest while conducting a major drug purchase. I hate to be that guy, but not me. My teachers told us this story. While he was working as an undercover cop in California, he ended up in the task force that was in charge of uncovering the underdog dogfights. Well, his one time going to a potential breeder's house, the agency gave him a partner who's brand new to the force. The guy shows up to the meeting in shorts, flip-flops, and a bright blue shirt. My teacher, on the other hand, came dressed in loose jeans and a t-shirt. Anyway, when he goes into the guy's house, they start talking about dogs and what kind of dog he's looking for, blah blah blah. Near the end, the guy flashes my teacher a gun and says, "You ain't a cop, are you?" My teacher acted offended and said, "You know what? This shit. I don't need this kind of disrespect. I'll find a dog somewhere else." To which the guy replied, "Then why do you have that piece? Why do you think I do? You got a gun on you. You think I would be coming here unprepared?" After that, the guy showed my teacher some respect. So, then he turns to his partner and says, "Now this little bitch over here, I don't trust. Are you a cop?" Now this newbie here got nervous really quick. My teacher answered, "No man, he's my money guy. Any money I use comes from him." To which the guy said, "Did I ask you who he was?" "No." "Now answer me, are you a cop?" The newbie released the softest no. My teacher said he was heading downhill fast. "I don't believe you," said the guy, as 2 more guys came in front of the back room. "But we have a way of making pigs talk." They grabbed him and my teacher yelled, "Leave him alone, he ain't no cop." The guy pulled out a gun and aimed it at my teacher's face. "You stay where you are, I'll blow your face off." rather proceed to bring in a full-grown pit bull into the room. They covered the newbie's arm with something and asked him, "Are you a cop?" He said no, and they lowered his arm to the dog's mouth. The dog proceeded to start chewing on the newbie's arm. Now, my teacher said he had never heard a dog make a sound like that. During the whole time, my teacher had to just stand there and watch as this poor new guy had his arm used as a chew toy. But thought the whole thing, he just kept screaming in the money guy, and "I'm just a money guy." They eventually decided he wasn't a cop and let them both go. They gave my teacher a dog and an address where the fights would be held, and they left. My teacher said they proceeded to bust that job or sting over 50 people and rescuing 20 plus dogs. Most of them were too sick or too vicious to be saved, so they were put down. Anyway, I don't know if this story is true or not, but our teacher told it to us, and I thought it was interesting enough to share. I'm late to this thread, but my friend's dad was undercover and made the mistake of taking his undercover minivan out for dinner with his sons, my friends and his older brother. They were 18 and 20 at the time, and the guy that their dad was trying to bust was at the same restaurant and saw them. He walked over and said, "Shit, I didn't know you had kids," and the dad was trying to play it off and finish the meal and go home. When they were leaving, the dealer waited for them and walked over to their car and tried to sell them some of the product, and they declined. At that point, he thought something was fishy and tried to pull a knife on their dad. Their dad was an ex-army badass motherfucker and quickly disarmed him and pulled his handgun out of the back of his head and said, "If you ever try to fuck with my family again, I'll make sure you won't live to see 30. He went on to bust the guy, and he's in prison now. Their dad still suffers from PTSD, from almost dying about 4 times. Edit. I should also add that I wasn't told the full story of what the dealer said to him or why he did that. That's just what I was told. I'm not a cop, but when I was a broke college kid in criminal justice classes, the professor came up to me and offered me a job if I would swing by his office later for the details. Turns out, he works heavily with the ATF, and they were doing a bust of liquor stores that would sell to underage kids. Just so happens, my professor was doing a study on it, so he employed students to be the undercovers and report everything that happened. Basically, I was 21 at the time, and I looked maybe 16. I still do. And as a scrawny little white boy, I was perfect. I would go to assigned gas stations and corner stores and run-down areas and attempt to buy beer, obviously without using an ID. If they sold it to me, and I reported it, they were busted. If they didn't sell it to me, nothing happened, obviously. One of my locations was this strange convenience store in the middle of a neighborhood with only one road in and out. Some place you would never just be passing by and had to be looking for it. I went in and everyone just watched me as I went to the cooler and grabbed a 6-pack. I put it on the corner without any words. 3 men surrounded me while the cashier asked me, "What are you doing here? You don't belong here." And I said, "I'm just trying to get some beer, man." To which he replied, "You came to the wrong place for that then." Then he continually asked me what I was really doing, and the 3 men around me prevented me from simply leaving. Through my stuttering and stammering, I finally said, "I'm doing a study on underage drink sales in the area, but what I'm gonna do is go back to my car, rip up all your paperwork, and tell my professor this place doesn't exist. You'll never see me around here again." I got escorted out very quickly after that, and quickly got out of that neighborhood. One day I received a call that a recon helix hopper had spotted a drug lab in a trailer in the local woods. I was sent down to investigate, but as I was approaching the trailer, the owners came out with shotguns, blindfolded me, and escorted me into their trailer. After they unmasked me, I was tied to a chair, and all around me were loads and loads of drugs. What I saw included heroin, shrooms, crystal meth, bath salts, and a 2-liter of canned booze. This shocked me so much that I fell unconscious for about 12 and a half hours, and when I woke up, the drug lords were sleeping on the floor next to me. I tried to untie myself from the chair so I could escape, but then I got a call in my cell from my boss, who was wondering what the F was happening, and the ringtone awakened the drug lords. They confiscated and consumed my phone and proceeded to ask me questions, such as what my middle name was and how many shoes I had on. I then reached for my taser in an attempt to tase them, but the electric discharge caused the canned booze on the shelf to catch on fire, and all of a sudden, the trailer was set ablaze. The fire was so hot that it attracted vultures from Africa who defecated on my captors, scaring them away. I then ran for my life and got a new job. Yeah, okay. Not a guy I know, but a friend's friend's uncle. He was working undercover, can't say where, in an attempt to bust open a drug cartel with a hell of a lot of heroin. He actually got in so deep with the guys that he went to the drug deal itself. After a lot of time not wearing a wire, they thought he was legit. So he put one on and had one of those pens in his shirt pocket to record video. Well, things get a bit heated, and he's pushed back by one of the other mafia guys, and the dude feels the wire underneath my friend's uncle's shirt. All hell breaks loose, but he manages to escape her away behind a few oil drums. Now, this was a big drug deal, so there was a lot of artillery, light machine guns, submachine guns going off left, right, and center. My friend's uncle had to get out of there super fast, so he picked up his pen and held the camera to his face, shouting, "Get me fucking out." The surveillance guys thought he was saying, "Get me a fucking owl." So, being a big deal, the surveillance team actually send 3 owls into the place where the deal is going down in hopes that one will reach my friend's uncle. One owl manages to find its way to the heroin and starts pecking at some that's on the ground. Another sits actually inside an SUV, and a third, so I understand, was doing circles around one of the boss's heads. Anyway, that caused enough distraction for, let's call him Jim, to get out. He's now living in a condo with his wife and dog.
Obviously, there's probably not too many undercover stories online because if there were, I mean, you're undercover. Probably shouldn't be telling those stories. So we're going to transition into another topic for the last 8 or 9 minutes. So enjoy, guys. I hope all is well. See you soon.
For me, suicide calls are the worst. It's the screams that do it, but those are more tragic than horrifying. Actual horror, though. I had a call for a welfare check on an elderly couple that no one had been able to get in contact with for a few days. Finally, a friend or relative, I forgot which, came to the house to check on them. Their cars were home and the doors were locked, but they couldn't see or hear anything. All in all, nothing too out of the ordinary. We get these calls all the time. I send the units thinking they're probably just out of town or maybe already at the hospital somewhere. PD and fire get on the scene and start checking. Ordinarily, if nothing obviously suspicious is present, they won't force entry, but thank God this time they did. When they went to check the residence, they found the elderly woman in bed with her dead husband. It turns out that she's completely bedridden, and he was her caretaker. He passes away in his sleep one night, and she can't get out of bed to get to a phone. So he has to lay there next to her dead husband for the better part of 5 days as he slowly decomposes before we arrived. I spoke with the units after, and she basically lost her mind over those few days and was talking and having a conversation with her dead husband like he was still alive. Just thinking of what she must have gone through gives me chills. I'm glad it had a good outcome, but another day or so, Shed passed away too. Not me, but my cousin's husband told me this since he doesn't have an account. He answered a call around 12:30 in the morning. Only breathing was heard on the other line, and he asked how he could help and asking if they are alright while getting the location of the call from the owner tower. It was supposedly coming from an area that is pretty much only woods around a main highway. Eventually, a woman's voice came over the line between huffing and puffing about she thinks she lost them. When he asked who and when she is so she can send help, she shushes him. She tells him that she's going to go down the little hole to see if they miss her. He hears other people in the background yelling, cursing, and yelling a woman's name. Unfortunately, it seems that someone found her, and she was screaming horribly, while they must have beaten her or whatever else, killing her in the end because a male voice picked up the phone and said, "Bitch is dead," and hung up. Her body was found in the woods a few days later, badly bruised and assaulted. The story is that she was a woman who was trying to escape a sex trafficking group, but sadly failed. He had nightmares for a few weeks about hearing his wife's voice or his daughter's voice over the phone in her place. I don't know if they found the men or not, and this was some years ago too, 10 or 15. One day she got a call from a person who said that she was worried about her neighbor and wanted a wellness check done. So she gives all the details, etc., and she mentions that her dogs are sitting at the bay window and have been there for a couple days. The lady in question hasn't left her house for a little over 4 days, the caller says. So the mother radios it in, and the nearest unit just happened to be an absolute dick. I mean, I'm the biggest supporter of the police, but this guy was just an a-hole through and through. Type of guy to throw the book at you for a misdemeanor traffic violation. Anyways, she radios it in, and he immediately starts bitching about it. About how if the dogs are there, then she's fine, and all this other bullshit. So he finally heads out there and kind of brushes it off, not even trying to enter the property. Eventually he goes in and radios in a 10-100 death. She was an elderly lady that had fallen and cracked her head open on the ground apparently, and this shut the officer right up for a couple of weeks. Still kinda creepy to think about though. I wasn't an operator, but I worked in a jail, and our dispatch center and the jail control room were the same room. Later one night, about 3 a.m., a call came in. It was just the sound of a woman running and sobbing. She gave a blood-curdling shriek. Then we heard a splash. The operator, a 19-year-old kid, pinged this call to a bridge across a river in the middle of nowhere and dispatched officers who found nothing. The river was patrolled with our department's boat and still nothing. Absolutely no idea what happened. The saddest call was a guy who calmly explained to us that he had throat cancer. He told us that it hurt too much to eat or drink, that he couldn't afford the treatment anymore, and he didn't want to burn up his life savings and leave his kids nothing. He apologized for if he left too much of a mess. Then we heard a gunshot. The saddest detail was he really meant it. He filled up a 5-gallon bucket halfway with sand on a tarp in his garage, placed his head inside, then shot himself so as to not leave behind too much to clean up after he was done. He had also carefully lined up all his guns next to his body so as to make cleaning the house easier for the responding officers. He also left a list of where he had meticulously stored all of his important papers, valuables, bank account info, and assorted stuff he felt was vital or important for his family. It was, I think, the most carefully planned and polite suicide ever. The most personal was due to our facility serving a small town. We get calls from people I knew well. Once it was my own grandmother's life alert system, and I was the only detection officer on duty with the facility full of inmates. I couldn't abandon my post despite her living only 3 blocks away. Luckily, she wasn't injured, just stuck in the bedroom after her door lock broke. When I was 17, I went in a boat trip on the lake with 2 of my aunts and 4 of my cousins. My aunt's boyfriend was driving the boat back after an awesome day. It was dark. Out of nowhere, another speedboat plowed into the side of ours at full speed, killing one of my aunts and my 9-year-old cousin instantly, and sending another aunt into the water to be found the next day dead. After I realized what happened, I heard screams from the dark water. It was the driver of our boat, with my other baby cousin in his hands, trying to swim back. He said he couldn't feel his legs, so I jumped in without thinking, giving him a life jacket, and swam back to the boat with my baby cousin, who was alive but bit her tongue in half. She was 4 or 5. When the driver finally made his way back to the boat, I pulled him up and noticed both his legs were shattered, bones sticking out and bleeding. I didn't even get a scratch on me. Worst night of my life. On a calm, early morning in a small town, I walked a couple of my friends home after my party. We live near the Arctic Circle, so it was a sunny 3 a.m. Beautiful weather. As I was making my way back home, I witnessed an ATV accident on a treacherous, hilly intersection. A woman and her child, with no helmet, flipped and tumbled 30 feet into the ditch. The 6-year-old was crying when I came up to the scene. 911 was on the phone. The mother was unconscious but still breathing face down. I was on a call with EMS while giving CPR to the woman, but when I rolled her over, I noticed her head was caved in and blood gushing out, pooling on the ground beside her. I had to reassure the daughter with a broken arm that everything is fine and the ambulance is coming. The mother died in my arms.